Welcome to the Hollywood Scholar. I'm Jed Morgan, and if the access of mainstream media sites are to be believed, The Last of Us franchise has been in no stronger position now than it has ever been before. Now, that can be heavily debated because the online interest just hasn't been there, but it cannot be denied that the viewership of The Last of Us television show from HBO is far exceeding any initial expectations for the success of this show. On more of the gaming side of things, Last of Us Part 1 has finally released on the PC, and the interest for this game has been a little bit nebulous from a lot of people. The gamer side of things have not been interested in because of The Last of Us Part 2 debacle and the utter desecration of The Last of Us's characters and the story and the overall gaming experience that game was. Now, Last of Us Part 1 comes along. Is it just a reskin of the original game, which we already got in the remaster copy, or is it going to be a remake in its purest sense to make it align more with Last of Us Part 2? There's some conflicting reports on that. I'm not necessarily interested in this remake whatsoever, mainly because I don't think there's much needed improvement done after the remastered version. That is my perfect version of The Last of Us, the original game. But regardless of what your thoughts are, the PC version is out, and there is a lot of problems with it that even people who you think would support Last of Us Part 1 that are really invested in the franchise in this tiny time, the people who liked Last of Us Part 2, the people who liked HBO's Last of Us, even they're coming out against this PC port because it's fundamentally broken. And that is not something that I would have necessarily expected. But the PC port of The Last of Us Part 1 remake is in a dire situation. You've got this Steam report here. The reviews for The Last of Us Part 1 on Steam are mostly negative. Only 33% of reviews are positive for The Last of Us Part 1. That is devastating to Naughty Dog, who hasn't released a good game for a lot of gamers in many years. Their most recent releases that I'm aware of, at least, were Last of Us Part 2, which received so much hatred from fans, rightfully so, because of the utter desecration that it was. And then there was Uncharted 4, with a lot of Uncharted fans believe did not end the story of Nathan and Drake in a very positive way. So Naughty Dog is in a pretty rough situation from a gaming side of things. Again, the television side of things is doing great. Whether or not I like that show, it is doing great on the television side of things. But Naughty Dog needed a win right now, and The Last of Us Part 1 does not seem like it's that win that Naughty Dog so desperately needs. Now, we can look at the actual Steam reports, mostly negative, 7,000 reviews, and they're mostly negative, only 33% positive. To see Naughty Dog get this type of backlash is a glorious thing that I'm just going to sit back and enjoy. You can just scroll through The Last of Us Part 1 on Twitter and see all these glitches that people are having, because at the end of the day, it is a technical backlash that is coming against this game. No one's really concerned about it from a storytelling perspective, which I'm very happy about. It doesn't seem like they've changed overall the story of The Last of Us original game, but from a glitch perspective, from a technical perspective, this game is broken on so many different levels. I mean, just look at Joel in this PC port. What is going on with him? I can't show it on screen, but there's another version of Joel out there that I saw that had him accidentally, apparently, in blackface. How do you accidentally your main character into blackface? How do you accidentally your main character into this abomination that you see right before you? This is a disaster for Naughty Dog. You can just scroll through this on Twitter and seeing people freaking out about this, saying it's a disaster, posting images of all the glitches that they're receiving. It is a bad release for Naughty Dog. This situation is only going to get worse as more glitches are discovered. Now, there's some speculation on why this PC version of The Last of Us Part 1 is so terribly broken on every sort of technical level, and this speculation comes from this Twitter user. I've never heard of him, but the speculation I do agree with, that it's possibly because of the television show, that perhaps the production of The Last of Us Part 1 was rushed to try to match the release of the television show as closely as possible, to carry off any hype that the television show does garner for the franchise as a whole. From a business perspective, that is a relatively sound idea. Try to match up your releases, maximize your profits. Great business idea. But if it comes at the expense of the production to such a degree that we've seen in The Last of Us Part 1 on the PC, then it's not a good business decision, because it just went too far in that sort of logical direction. I don't know if it's true. Maybe it is. It's a lot of interesting stuff going on here, and I am here for it no matter what comes out as the truth of the situation. Last of Us needs to fail, in my opinion. Naughty Dog needs to fail, in my opinion, because the television show was not a good adaptation. It was not well written in a lot of instances, and Last of Us Part 2 was an utter desecration of the franchise that I love so very much. There are only two versions of The Last of Us, only two entries in The Last of Us in its entire run, in my opinion. There is the original Last of Us, and then there was the remastered copy. That is the only thing that exists in this franchise, in my opinion. Those were my headcanon installations of the franchise. All this rest of the stuff, this remake, Last of Us Part 2, Last of Us, the television show, are utter abominations compared to the majestic, perfect first game of The Last of Us. But I am definitely in the minority when it comes to that headcanoning of the situation. When it comes to The Last of Us Part 1, wrapping it up with that, even mainstream and access media sites that were normally crawling over themselves to praise whatever the current thing is, are calling this game out for the utter abomination and technical debacle that it is. We've got Polygon calling it out. We've got The Verge, Kotaku. Kotaku is calling The Last of Us Part 1 PC port out. You know things are bad when Kotaku is turning against the mainstream, turning against the big corporations out there. That is when you know you fail to such a degree that even they can't defend you. And it is just the funniest thing to me. Lastly, I want to end off. Apparently, according to this Twitter user as well, the people who made this PC port are the ones who made the PC port for Arkham Knight back in the day. And that one we knew had a ton of issues with it as well that were later fixed. But that PC port was a disastrous release as well. So they're failing upwards, and they have 2 games on their resume. These people have 2 games on their resume that are disastrous PC releases. That is not a good sign. Why would you hire these people? Why would you do that? If these are indeed the same group of people involved in both of these games, they should not be getting a third chance to do a PC port if they've done such a terrible job, famously terrible job on both of these releases. At the end of the day, this is just humorous for me to see The Last of Us and Naughty Dog getting reamed so thoroughly for this horrific addition to The Last of Us franchise. Every addition to The Last of Us franchise has been horrific ever since the remaster. The remaster was the only and final time that an addition to the franchise was received in a near completely positive way. Even the television show is not being universally appraised like these sites will make you believe. But anyway, that's all I have for today. I'd love to hear your thoughts about The Last of Us Part 1, this disastrous PC port release. Will you be playing it, or will this just kind of disappear into the general zeitgeist, as it nearly already is, as there is not a whole lot of hype for this game, and the only conversation around it is how horrifically the technical side of things are. Please like, share, and subscribe, and I will see you on the next video. Anon.
Hey, yo, are you feeling what I'm doing up in here? Oh, I know you are. Do you miss all the good, compelling stories that we used to get back in Hollywood that they ain't putting down no more? I know you missing it. So check out my book series, Odyssey of a Phoenix, a mythological epic about philosophy, morality, and modern-day mental illness issues, baby. Book 1, Down in Flames. Book 2, Apocalypse Then. These are currently on sale. What are you waiting for? Get your hands on them. And we got Book 3, Kill the Dark, is coming down the pipeline. Just wait for all the good stuff that's dropping. You ain't gonna be disappointed, fam.